The dilemma of the state. The state, in its ideal form, has absolute power. The state in reality has zero power. The state to exist is always fighting reality. The state, in whatever form it manifests, is a lie. The state is the manifestation of the father of lies. The state originated in Eden. In the act that caused Adam to reject God and embrace sin, went from being under God to being like God. The state was the way Satan transferred his desire to be like the Most High, to earth. The devil works through three major channels. Each portrays a range of rights. There are the rights of democracy that encompass suffrage, the rights of sexual liberation, including gay rights and transgenderism, and civil rights, which encompass political freedom such as the freedom not to work or pay for the things one gets. The lust for freedom ends up in the right to kill one's child. Abortion sacrificed children to Baphomet. However, gay liberation was ushered in by the worship of Baal, the god of sexual liberation. All of this might seem unrelated, or only related by some nebulous idea regarding evil, but it is very targeted and purposeful. The devil does not just run around pinching people and causing horrible diseases. The devil has no power. He is all fury and noise. This goes back to the dilemma of ownership. God created reality. The devil has no power over it. This is why we are confronted with the duality of Scripture. Flesh and spirit are not just flavors or points of view, they are incompatible realities. Flesh is one race and those of the spirit another. The state operates in one reality, but not the other. There is no party that can get us out of this evil, that is the state. Every party, regardless of their promises, will cause inflation and taxation just as the most socialist party does. Every party, regardless of which party he belongs to, will make promises he cannot keep, because in the end, politicians and parties have no power. Any power they exercise is stolen from a person who works, all the wealth they spend, is stolen from someone who produces real things. If you want to destroy evil, only one being can do this. Only one being has real power. Only those who work for him and through him, have the power to exorcise evil. God has the power of an owner and creator, and he works through the church. Not the church that is an agency of the state. The state corrupts everything, even your church and even your favorite politician. Politicians work in the flesh. Politicians want to control people because it is through people they control what belongs to God. Politicians think by being a man with the divine right of kings, puts him on par with God. The globalist agenda is all about evil men desiring to sit on the throne of God. They are possessed. The ultimate agenda is globalism, but it will most likely take the form of a global caliphate. This is why the left is so dead against Christianity. However, what everyone misses is that the hatred of Christianity is not due to some prejudice or incidental feature of the faith. The hate goes back to Ishmael. We do not need to look at the issues of spiritual warfare or a personal conflict between Satan and God. The battle is much closer to home and centers on the church. The devil is no match for God. There is no battle between God and Satan, the contest is not even close. This idea of good and evil being protagonists is a demonic idea that has no credibility in Christian theology. But the paradigm of a heavenly battle between good and evil permits Christians to live out their lives as dispassionate observers. We see our role as one of support. Christians form the cheering section for God, as if there really was a battle for heaven and God needs or wants our support. The battle, so far as it is a battle, is for earth, and it is only for earth because if Satan can get us to join him in the fight to claim the earth, or some part of it, we have already lost. Satan is not trying to win a battle against God. He is trying to make us lose our battle against him. Satan is consumed with hate and hates all life. His victory is in bringing death to us. And he does not care how he does this. He works through the state as God works through the church. This battle is very much on this earth fought with our minds and our identities. This war is about who we are. We do not fight flesh and blood, we fight propositions and assertions and false claims that distort the truth. It is literally a war of words because lies always distort language. It is through the capturing of the narrative that the left captures minds and the souls of man. The spiritualist places is false information, false ideas that motivate us the wrong ways and take us down the wrong paths. This is why there is such a fierce battle going on about transgenderism. This used to be a battle about origins and evolution. All of the major themes of our time are efforts to divert us from the truth. All it takes is a smidgen of doubt. That is the weapon of the devil. With doubt comes fear, and with fear comes the erosion of faith. Not faith in God, but faith in each other. Without this faith there is no church. If there is no church, there is no opposition to the demonic forces of the state. That is the truth. In reality, the devil does not care what you believe so long as you do not believe in your neighbor. You can even believe in God, and the devil will accept you. Faith does not hinge on a reality check. We may think it matters if we believe God exists or not. But a diversion is as good as a lie. Technically, of course it matters if you believe in God or not. But the obvious question is which God you believe in. Even if we get the God right, is guessing right as to which God exists really what is important? If we understand God is omnipotent, is our faith crucial to some decision made by God? What could a decision made by humans mean to God? Yet, we somehow think our declaration of faith impacts God in some way. A belief in God must impact something more than our endocrine glands. One of the most important changes is our position on what faith means. The project of the state is to reduce faith, because as faith is reduced, fear rises and the state becomes more important, as a way to allay risk. But we have already made clear the state is nothing but a concept. It has no physical existence. It cannot, by itself, produce any impact on the world. Therefore, the state acts as God acts, through our words and ideas. The loss of faith in God results in an increased dependency on the state. There is an inverse correlation. As God is pushed out, the devil comes in. Therefore, there is a power shift going on. It revolves around our words and ideas, and ultimately, around the way we think. This is a war for our minds, and our minds are composed of the concepts composing our language, which is why the left always attacks the words we use. If marriage is any association, there is nothing to defend, and God has no say in how unions are conducted. If faith is just awareness of a kind of tacit acceptance, then it does not matter what God you believe in or how nebulous your understanding, nor does the depth of your commitment matter. Ultimately, if there is no real meaning and no genuine thing is a choice based on emotional weighting. If you feel more strongly about it, then it is important. If you are traumatized by suggestions your genes and sexual organs have some kind of relevance to your identity, then this line of thinking has to cease. The details do not matter, what matters is the lack of absolutes. What matters is the denial of any objectivity. Because in this vacuum, the state can work. The most important goal of the state is to erase meaning from our language. Everything must come down to feeling. The state can then mediate between emotional reactions. Of all the concepts that must be destroyed is the idea of ownership. This is why communism continues to play a central role in the minds of the left. The right keeps making the argument that communism fails and always fails. This is nonsense. If it failed, it would not still be a major element in social discourse. We would not still be fighting its adherents. Conservatives think the left's argument seriously that the left has a better economic model. This is also nonsense. The left is not concerned about economics, it wants power. It wants to justify the state. It has succeeded in that it has served to denigrate the idea of ownership and enshrine the idea as to the necessity of the state. One might think that the globalist state would be antithetical against private ownership. It is, but the individual never has the power to divest an entire world of its possessions. Therefore, a strategy needs to be employed. We often talk about the state using divide and conquer as a strategy. But we do not tie it to private ownership. Private owners compete to own property and therefore are divided, and being divided, the state is required to mediate disputes between them, and regulate the market. But the state, itself, has no power and so engages in a quid pro quo, offering services in exchange for property and support. The state offers income to some to police its laws, and protection to businesses in exchange for a share of the income, which it uses to pay its police. These deals with the devil can be multiplied manyfold. The state does not do any of the work, it serves as a broker. It takes income from all parties to distribute to others, both for work done that benefits the state and its subjects, but also to beef up support from key sectors. The gainfully employed Christian does not need the state needs Christians, yet hates them for the simple fact that Christians have no vested interest in the existence of the state. Christians also have values that are antithetical to the program of the state. The state desires to socialize ownership and to be responsible for allocating benefits, whereas Christians are okay with helping others, but see this as a personal duty, not something to be done by the state. The state needs Christians, the Christian does not need the state. The state needs power, but power requires control of property, and it does not have the means to directly acquire property. So, it must work through those who produce the most value. Thus, the state has an objective and a methodology for reaching its goal. The state creates alliances to claim territory, which it shares with its allies. It allocates property to allies which exacting tribute from them, in order to pursue common concerns, such as protection. Christians are given many liberties under the guise of the freedom of religion. But there are incompatibilities between them, which the state attempts to minimize and the church appears happy to downplay. The state cannot exercise power unless it controls its subjects, and it cannot control its subjects unless it controls their property. Therefore, it increases its own importance and reduces the importance of private entities, particularly the church. All power blocks are infiltrated and devalued, such as the church and family. The definitions are changed so there is nothing to protect. There is nothing to defend. Because there is no truth, the state makes the truth for its subjects. This is called the state's social agenda. But one of the problems the state faces is that Christians are hard targets. They are resistant to the manipulation of reality. Islam was put in place in preparation to the destruction of Christianity. It cannot be taken over readily, and so a different approach is needed than that used to defile liberals. The state creates victims which justify marginalizing Christians. Transphobia are just a few of the major victim categories that legitimize the destruction of Christianity and the invalidation of the Christian worldview. Artificial intelligence has been programmed with the Islamic worldview. There is a reason for this. Christianity is a faith. It requires something from the individual. Words matter to Christians. We are accountable for our worldview. It is through faith we build the church, but as said, faith is more than point of view. In faith, we no longer pose a risk. In faith, we drive out fear, as faith is analogous to love. It is what the church calls agape love. Muslims only need to act right, according to the law. There is no requirement for a heart change. So, the dilemma of the state can be reconciled in the caliphate, which is a legal structure operating according to law. Interestingly, the state and the mosque are perfectly in alignment, if not analogous. The state imposes the politics and the mosque the religious aspects. So, we see the dilemma of the state, so apparent in the division between church and state, resolved in the caliphate and the reconciliation of mosque and Islamic state.